Hello there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce, week 4 of autumn 2018-2019 on year 2 at Nescott. So I'm going to give you a few questions of how I did over the 4th week of my autumn term. So the first question is, what did we do this week? So, as I can explain really well, we recapped on I Hope I Get It, which is from a chorus line, which we started on the week before. And so we kind of started adding a bit more. We added a little bit to go with the final bit of the energized part where the audience are watching you. And then right after we had done that, we went on to working on this ballet combination, which is part of the song. So we put a bit of that in and got ourselves with that to keep us going for the next week from there. Then we went on in tap. We did something very different. We were being filmed and taken photographs of as like a promo for Nescott, like a promotion just for future students and future staff and all that kind of thing, and just to kind of advertise the whole of the college in general. So they wanted to film and take photos of us doing like a bit of tap dance just to get that, just so people could see what we're doing in the performing arts block. So we did stuff like paradiddles, we did shufflable changes, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we did that. And then also in the workshop, we went on and created like this really big bag shelf that can go into each classroom. So when we go into our classes, we can put our belongings in this box, so it wouldn't have to be like lying straight on the floor, which it can be quite dangerous depending on the classes that we're doing. So if we were doing jazz, we wouldn't want anyone to trip over like a coat or something. So that's down to health and safety and all that. So we wanted to go over that as much as strongly as possible, so we can keep the safety of the college as slick as possible. And yeah, then we went on to focus on like areas of the body that we can use for singing, and we used examples of where in the chest you could use. So you would have stuff like your diaphragm. You'd use places up in your nose, up in your head, and where you kind of get all of your air out to let the vocals match out. And then get from there. I used quite a good example of how someone might sing from their nose, and that's Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. That he sings more like that from his nose. And so I tried to use like many different artists and singers and all that, just to get myself understanding like each part of the body from where other people normally can sing from and all that. So it works from there. And then also we went on and rehearsed Found Tonight, which is like a mashup. So You'll Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen and The Story of Tonight, which is from Hamilton. So yeah, we wanted to do that song, which is then combined together, which has Ben Platt, who was the original cast of Dear Evan Hansen, and then Lin-Manuel Miranda, who was the one who created Hamilton. So they all bunched in together to create like this mixture of Dear Evan Hansen and Hamilton all combined together. So we worked on that song for the first time. And yeah, and then also what I did was in our acting class, which was like on the last day, was work on characterization and copying how other students have their use of walking traits. So I had to look at Micah and I had to copy exactly how he walks. So I had to copy his arms, copy how his head was held up, how he walked through his legs, how quickly he was walking, so I can keep up the pace so I wasn't going to trip him over and all that. And just to really fulfill myself into another person's shoes instead of just fulfilling myself in my own shoes, because that will make it different. And that doesn't make someone change their persona to someone else, which is what acting's all about. It's creating a new character. It's not creating you. It's about creating your own character. So this is kind of a good way of fulfilling yourself in that moment. And yeah, next question is, what are my aims for this term, and how am I going to apply them for next week? So when I am thinking, I'm thinking about thinking about my breathing exercises and trying to use them at home as well. And because I've already been given the techniques from this really good guy called Roger Love, who has this really good technique of how to breathe and use other different methods, not just breathing, but there's trying to find ways of helping you articulate better when you're singing. So maybe using a few articulate techniques that Roger Love uses, try and get into those and just get myself into that as well, which will really help fulfill me in that area, so that when I start to get better at singing, that I can just try and find use Roger Love as one of my references to keep me up and to keep me going, especially if I want to do musical theatre or a singing styled course for the future, that I need to make sure that I am using as many references to keep me going with my singing technique, so that I've already got examples that I can give to my classes when I go to other universities elsewhere or colleges elsewhere. I can just go, I know this guy called Roger Love, or look up anyone else. And if you know what you're doing with that, then it will kind of give a good example of how people could look up to you, especially if you've done it before. And there might be some students who've never had that experience yet and probably don't have that capability of knowing how to research people. So it's good experience to get that, especially if you're going on to degree level and all that. So yeah. Also trying to get myself with the ballet combination as well, just recapping back on what I did last year, and then of course looking at the example of the original chorus line ballet combination, or looking at the stage version of it, and look at how all the performers really start to use their bodies, how they use their legs and all that, how they really stretch themselves, how they try and look really professional, and just get myself into that as well. Because the thing with the chorus line is, you can be whatever character you want. If you're nervous, feel nervous and look like a nervy bloke who just, it affects his performance in a chorus line, that's fine, because that's relevant. And of course, just maybe making sure that I can or if I want to be looking really confident and knowing what I'm doing, I want to really make sure that I can perfect my ballet technique, especially in the combination, and really, really feel it as well, which will really make it entertaining. And yeah, no, there's that. And of course, there's maybe just going over that as much as possible, looking back on my video that I took this week, and just really fulfill myself and remember all the different parts that I need to use, especially with my arms, because I always struggle with knowing what arm to turn from and which one goes where. So that's something to look on. And finally, my other thing that I need to make sure of is learning found tonight, because I think the one thing that I found was the reason I was straining a lot was probably because I was looking too much over the sheet, because we were already rehearsing it beforehand, and I already knew, it was familiar to me, but I think I could do a bit better now that I know the different lines that I need to remember and the different cues that I need to look out for. So now that I know that, I can just go over it and remember what I did, and then memorize it, and then come back for the next week and just show that I know it well enough that I don't need the sheet in my hands. So then I can worry about my performance a lot more, because once you've got a sheet or a book out of your hand, you could just worry about the performance more than anything. You could just concentrate on how you present yourself when doing a song, even when it's a company song or anything. If you've not got the sheet in your hand, you're not going to sound rubbish. If you know it that well, you can just put it out of your way. So yeah, that's one of the things that I want to make sure of. And and learning a song very quickly is something also that I need to be getting myself into for musical theatre. If I want to go and do a musical theatre course in the future, learning songs really quickly is a really crucial thing to start getting into, because they could, if I was to go to ArtsEd or go to somewhere like Mountview or Central or any other kind of musical theatre uni anywhere, or drama school, if they were to say learn this by a day, I have to make sure I know my method of how to learn a song. So getting into it now and making sure that I can find ways in which I can learn it quickly, it could help, especially if you're going to be doing like a full-time musical theatre course where you'll be singing nearly every day, and they will just say, right, we've given you a sheet, you're going to be rehearsing it first time with the sheet, just make sure you learn the song, so then the next day you're off book. So it's important to get yourself into that frame of mind to just learn something really just like that. And especially if it's a solo or it's and even if it's a company song, get yourself and learn it early, learn the areas, learn all the different cues you're into, and then just get into that. And so yeah, so my three strengths of the week would be keeping my arms really still when doing like the step, kick, leap, kick, touch, in the chorus line for I Hope I Get It. Because I think the one thing that I knew from quite a lot of people was that they were flapping their arms about when doing the step, kick, and I tried to make sure that I was keeping my arms completely still so I can go step, kick, leap, kick, touch, which makes it sharper, so the arms can go a bit sharper and really get yourself fully into it. So that's one thing that I felt I was really strong at this week. And also giving good examples of different singers that I could use to work on my vocal methods and think about different vocal technique that I can use when I'm trying to sing different songs. So if I was to think about how to sing something from my nose, I can look at Billie Joe Armstrong from Green Day. Or if I was to think about someone who sings from the chest, then I can maybe use like Ramin Karimlo, who's one of my favourite musical theatre singers, who did Phantom of the Opera, who did Les Mis, and did all that, so many other fantastic musicals, and he's like real opera trained. So with opera singers, they have to sing from the chest, because if they don't sing from the chest, they can't get it out like that. And sometimes, if you get it from the chest and you let out, especially if you're like trying to do it low, and then all of a sudden you have to really you have to get the volume higher, especially on higher notes, and you're having to do it with a really low voice, you've got to really rely on this big baby here that I'm talking about with my pencil. Anyway, and yeah, just find other ways in which to help myself to find good examples of how I'm going to remember particular singing techniques. And yeah, the other one would be using my own creative vision to create my portrayal of an emotion. So in acting, it's really important that when you get asked to give your own creative idea of what kind of emotion you'd want to give, it's really important that you don't copy other people in the room, that you give your own view. So you have to give your own view with your own facial expression, with your own body language, and it's really important that you use the right props and just find what really works for you. Because if you just copy what other people do, it'll just make you it'll just make you not look original. And being a good actor, being a really good actor, actually, being an amazing actor, is about being yourself, having your own feeling that you want to give to your own character. Because if you think about so many great actors that we see, so you look at like Benedict Cumberbatch and you look at David Tennant, or you look at Michael Caine, they are all original actors. They use their own original source of soul that they give to their own characters that they play. They don't copy what others have done, they just do what they think is going to make their character the stronger one. And never think about like how you're going to get stronger. Just do it from what you feel is the best way. And it could be the best, you could be the best actor that anyone's watched, or you might not be. But this is a good example. They're great actors and they're ones to watch to get yourself, fulfilling yourself in the head, to get your way through it. And that's the best way of getting to become a great actor, is knowing your own creative emotions, using what you know is going to work for your character, and of course taking directions from directors is important as well, but trying to find something that you know is going to work for your character. And if you use that and use directions from directors and you mash them all together, it makes a great show, or it makes a great film, or it makes a great TV series, all that kind of thing. So yeah. Anyway, my 3 weaknesses of the week will probably, for me, would be preparing my knees before like hitting them really high. So this is for jazz. So when I was doing I Hope I Get It, one of the things that I found really difficult in that session was knowing when to prepare myself to really hit the knees with as much power and as much emph as I possibly could. So one of the things that I do quite a lot of is when I'm trying to remember a choreography, I start to have this real panic attack, and then I start to watch everyone else, and then I'll go, oh, I'm supposed to go that, and everyone else is completely on time and I'm out of time because I'm still trying to remember it and I'm still panicking a little bit. So for me, I think this is the most important thing for me as an overall actor, and also as a dancer in general, is thinking strongly about what I can remember from the dance. Watch the video of it that I put on my phone, or if I don't do that, try and think about what I did in my head, use what I can remember from my head and just start practicing at home and just seeing what I can do that makes it better in that way. So that's really important, just to really fulfill that to the best it can possibly be. So one of the things that I feel that I need to do for that is work as much as I can at home and just familiarise myself as much as I can, especially with the first bit of the dance. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. Just work myself a lot more with when to prepare my legs and just get that stuck in as much as possible. And then after that, then start looking at the ballet combination once I've really started to get into it and familiarise myself with it. And then that's where it will help from that pace. And yeah, the other one for me is to not strain my neck when I'm singing. And I think this is one of the things that I do a lot of when I'm trying to get into a song and I've only just started rehearsing it, is sometimes I can be found doing that when trying to, and even points when I'm trying to make my voice really project. Sometimes I try to go, and it doesn't work, because the one thing you've got to do is when you're trying to reach a high note, you've got to keep your neck to a right minimal, and you've got to have it aiming for a particular area in a room. So if you think about, for example, when you're in like a really big room, if there was a fire exit logo, one of the things that my teachers always say is, if there's a door right behind you and it's a fire exit door, have your eye contact towards the fire exit door, and that way it will help you, especially when you're trying to deliver as much of your own emph that you're trying to put into a song. And or not just that, but use it for acting as well. Because the one thing that you see a lot of people doing is they think a lot about the words, and even when you have lyrics or a book in your hand, Sometimes they just go, oh, and that's how I do it like that. And I just, if you're doing it, and that's how it works from one more shot. You see the difference? That is how you get a good singer and a bad singer, is making sure you know the eye contact of where to hit when you're singing out. And that's really important in those circumstances. Right. So next thing is, don't get fazed by facts and questions in acting sessions. The thing is with facts and questions is what it's looking for is what you know from what you've read out of a script, what you've read, what you remember from a film, what you remember from seeing a show, and looking at the facts that you can picture and what you've made note of, and just putting those facts down. And then with the questions is make up something that you try and think about, because with questions there's no right or wrong, and that's the one thing to remember with them, is there's no right or wrong. You have the creative license to make your own view. It's like in politics. You have the right to have your own view about something in particular. It's the same with acting. It's the same with performing. You have an opinion, and your opinion is very valid to how you feel you should perform for a particular reason. So that's a very important thing to try and keep aware of. And it looks a lot easier than it does, but I think I get fazed quite easily when it comes to the multiple amount of questions I get given and the multiple facts that I need to try and answer and see what I can remember and all that. It gets quite hard to do. But sometimes with technology, you can find anything out with facts, and you just need to put that in. So what I'm going to do to improve for next week is work on my position, how I position myself when I'm singing, making sure I'm off book for Fountain Night, so it's going to be easier for me to project better and to not strain my voice. Just look to the right angle when singing. And yeah, practice on I Hope I Get It, and just get myself familiar. Just learn the first section as thoroughly as I can. And then by the time that's out of the way and then we get through the ballet, then once I've learnt the ballet, then we can move on to something else that's going to happen. So it will make it quicker and the process will become a lot easier. So, yeah. Alright, so that's me done for this week. This is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 4. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.